Welcome to UDK Resurrection. I am Carter, and I will be your narrator for this video. Today, we'll cover game scripting. I will teach you how to make a player pawn using your character mesh, anim tree, and anim set, as well as create an enemy pawn and a collectible actor. Scripting is the backbone of everything, second only to source code, and Unreal Engine 3 particularly relies on its very own scripting language called UnrealScript. Every functionality in the engine itself, including sequence objects in Kismet, are built using UnrealScript. Even some of the editor's features relies on UnrealScript. What doesn't rely on UnrealScript relies on C++ native code instead. Initially, this was off-limits to anyone without source code access to Unreal Engine 3. To acquire access, you had to contact Epic Games for a full commercial license, which was expensive and could range up to $300,000. Fortunately, thanks to some dark technomancy combined with abandonware clause, at least in the USA, you can now acquire the Unreal Engine 3 source code through abandonware archives or data repositories on the internet. Before we begin scripting our game, you will need to acquire some essential tools. You can find these tools in the UDK Veterans Discord server. In the old, ancient days of UDK, there used to be a handful of programming options for UnrealScript, albeit with some caveats and required know-how knowledge. This is no longer the case anymore. Most tools no longer exist, or their support for UnrealScript was deprecated and eventually scrapped. However, there are still two left that are still reliable and feature UnrealScript syntax and highlight marking. I personally use Visual Studio Code using Elliot Van Whitfang's UnrealScript plugin. It is not perfect, and it does not work well with package directories or native source code wrapper language, but it gets the job done. If things still get a little tricky, you can download UnCodeX to search for functions through your source directory. Failing that, there are other scripting tools that you can try instead, such as WhatGreal or Context. Once you've downloaded your scripting software of choice and installed any necessary plugins, let's begin scripting our game. Assuming you are using Visual Studio, you will first need to select your workspace folder. This can either be the SRC folder of your UE3/UDK build, or the entire directory of that build instead. There is little difference between the two besides small improvements on UnrealScript language syntaxing if you choose the latter. You will need to create these essential classes for your game. They are the backbone of your game script package. Let's go through them. Don't forget to create your script package and reference that in the default engine.ini files. You can look into the UDK documentation for more info on how to do that. The first is your pawn class, in my case, tutorial pawn, extending from the game pawn parent class found in the game framework folder in the SRC directory. I have also added a config marker for it and set it to modify the default game.ini file. We will be adding more to this script later, but for now, let's move on. Second is your player controller class, in my case, tutorial player controller, extending from the game player controller parent class. Moving on. Third and final is your game info class, in my case, tutorial game info, extending from the GameInfo parent class. Here, you will need to add a few things firsthand. To start, your HUD type. We won't be creating our own HUD, or heads-up display, for this tutorial series, so we'll instead use the mobile HUD class from the Game Framework script package. Note the reference language highlighted. This is how you reference other classes for class variables such as HUD type in the default properties, curly brackets. Other variables differ in syntax, but that is beyond the scope of this video. Ani Nacho will teach more about variables in his UDK database series in the future. Next, you must list your player controller and pawn classes for this game info. Finally, for good measure, just set this boolean to false. Let's go back to our pawn class we created earlier. We need to populate its default properties as well, specifically the visual content references. To do that, we need to create a DPO, or default properties object. We want the class to be a skeletal mesh component. For our skeletal mesh, anim tree template, and our only anim set, you will need to look into your package to copy the references to clipboard from the Unreal editor. If you haven't done that yet, go do it now. Do not compile any scripts. If this prompt appears, just click No, launch the editor, and get your references. Once that's taken care of, assign your DPO to the mesh component, then add your DPO to the components array. We also need to add another DPO, this time a light environment. When using meshes in UE3, They always require a light environment to be created and set up, else they will not render properly and appear almost completely dark in the 3D world. Just copy what is on this screen. Assign the light environment to your skeletal mesh component. You can use the translation to make pivoting adjustments for your character to fit the cylinder collision size for your pawn. You can look into the pawn class properties for how its cylinder collision component is set up. You can set a rigid body channel for your mesh as well. I went with the pawn rigid body collision channel, or RBCC_pawn. Lastly, set the draw scale only if you need to. Now if you want to get a little more advanced with your character mesh, you can just copy these properties to your DPO instead. Just be mindful that there are a variety of complex variables that I cannot cover in this tutorial series. Perhaps Uninacho can do that in UDK database. Optionally, you can modify the pawn sprite DPO for better editor decoration if you want. Time to create a new file. We'll need a third-person camera class. For this game, first person isn't gonna cut it. Camera work is a bit too complicated for me to teach in this tutorial video, and honestly, I'm no mathematician, so just pause or rewind this video and copy what's in the video clip. When you're done, head back to your player controller and assign your new camera class. Time to compile your scripts. Remember this screen? This time you're gonna say yes. If you did everything right, you should compile without problems. Let's test our game first for good measure. Great, it works. We're not done yet. Back into your code/script editor. You're gonna make yourself an enemy. 2 more scripts, an AI controller class and another pawn class, both for your enemy. For your AI controller, create this function. We'll need it to trigger a game over event when the player collides with the enemy. It simply restarts the level. For your enemy pawn, create this function. It will check for any collisions with a player pawn and restart the game if it bumps into one, but not before spinning a console message to notify it has killed you. Compile your scripts again and launch the editor. We'll need a proper level to test our gameplay scripts. Pause this video and either make yourself a new level, or just cheat like I did by cloning a pre-existing level and making a few adjustments. Take your time, then unpause this video when you're done. After you made your level, head to Actor Classes tab in the editor, search for your enemy pawn class and drag it into the viewport. Make as many as you want. You may also want to make your enemy's patrol areas in your level. To achieve this, you can just use Kismet and either copy this setup or make something similar. When you are done, head back into your script editor. It's time to make an item class. Copy and populate your item class with what you see in this clip. Head to your GameInfo class and make a few changes, a new variable to track your game score, and a function to add score, along with an iterator to find any available players and notify them with a client-side console message. Oh, and maybe force the game to start without any waiting time. Get back to your item class and make a necessary change to your increment score function. Compile your scripts, launch the editor, head to the Actor Classes tab, navigate to your item class, right-click, and create archetype. Make a new package, with grouping, if you want, it's optional, and a name. Give your collectible item class a static mesh, and maybe a material while you're at it. Adjust the scale if you need to. Make sure your collision type is set to collide_touch all. Place your collectibles throughout your level. Another quick tip, remember that anim tree I talked about in an earlier video? You might want to tweak it a little. As you may notice, the character is running while in the air. To fix that, just use this anim node blend by physics. It lets you choose which animation hierarchy to use when switching between physics movement modes. So when jumping or falling, it will play my mesh's jump animation and play everything else normally when walking. Finally, it's time to test your level scene. To test it fully, you need to launch it as a standalone client, or through the Unreal frontend instead of play-in editor. Congratulations! You made your first game. This concludes this tutorial video. If you like what we do, click the like and subscribe buttons. Until then, this is Carter signing off.